Hey guys, welcome to Priceless B Movies. Got a question for you. Whatever happened to Alicia Silverstone? That was actually a legitimate question. It's not a rhetorical question. I would like to know what happened to Alicia Silverstone. Yeah, I know that Batman and Robin and Excess Baggage and, every other movie she did after Clueless was pretty crappy. But what happened to her? Did she, give up acting? Or does she do cameos here and there? Or what? Because let's face it, at one point she had a future as an actress. But this is the film that is not Clueless. Is the other movie that she's probably a little more well-known for. The Crush. The Crush stars Cary Elwes, that's right, the Dread Pirate Roberts himself, as a young journalist who moves into a guest house that belongs to this really rich family. And this really rich family has a daughter, played by Alicia Silverstone. This is a 14-year-old girl, highly intelligent, highly ambitious, and the only real issue is that she's a 14-year-old girl. Now, before you start throwing sexist comments at me, what I mean by this is that she is really hormonal and also really susceptible to crushes. It doesn't take very long before she's really got a thing for Cary Elwes. And why not? He's a good-looking guy, unless you're watching Saw. The problem is that Cary Elwes doesn't quite react the way he should as a responsible adult towards some of these advances, and it's kind of because he's a little bit naive. He doesn't quite realize that this little girl is flat out hitting on him, and so he tries to become real buddy-buddy with her, and after a couple of misunderstandings, as I will put them, she becomes really, really hooked on this guy. So basically, from here on forward, you've got this movie that's more or less Fatal Attraction, but instead of this woman who's closer to the guy's age, this 14-year-old girl, and that's kind of scary in and of itself, because I almost feel like a younger woman, a 14-year-old teenage woman, who is still blossoming and who is still, not quite at a level of maturity that she'll eventually reach, would have fewer restrictions, would have fewer morals when it comes to what she will do to get a guy's attention. And I think that makes this film pretty creepy in a couple of scenes. As I said before, I think Alicia Silverstone is very good in this. I think Cary Elwes is very good in this because Cary Elwes has a real responsibility here because as an actor, he has to play a guy who's supposed to be like 27, 28 years old and who, you have to believe when this guy says, "Oh, I didn't realize that this little girl thought of me that way," and it's kind of like what 28-year-old guy wouldn't know a 14-year-old girl hitting on him, but gotta give it to Cary. He sells it. I mean, for the most part, he sells it. There's a couple of scenes I have a problem with involving his character, but for the most part, I bought his performance. This would be an interesting movie to see remade today, shot by shot. I'm actually a little shocked with some of the things that they got away with in this movie. Not so much in terms of the violence. The violence is pretty bloodless and almost non-existent. A lot of the kind of more horrific scenes happen off-screen. But, there's just a couple of things like, there's the full rear nudity in one shot of a girl who we're supposed to believe is 14 years old. I mean, obviously it's an older model doing the shot and standing in for the actors, but I mean, for the sake of what you're watching in the film, you're supposed to believe this is the ass of a 14-year-old. Okay? It's just kind of scenes like that that make me question, was this really necessary? Not like I have an issue with nudity, but I do have an issue of nudity if I think I'm looking at someone who's underage. Also, The Crush follows a formula. A lot of movies do, but The Crush follows an exact formula. I almost think that they could have, instead of calling it The Crush, they could have just retitled it Poison Ivy 2 or 3, because it really does feel like one of those movies when you're watching it. But even a movie that follows a formula, I can't be too hard on when it is legitimately creepy at different points, legitimately hot at different points, and when it has two really great performances from the leads. Gonna give The Crush 2.5 stars. I think this is almost a 3-star movie, but I do have some issues with the build-up in it. Basically just that it's slow up until the last 30 minutes. And also, I do think this is kind of a cookie-cutter seduction betrayal thriller. There are so many of these, and even when this film came out in 1993, there were already so many of these. There isn't a whole lot in The Crush that I think stands out from the group. That's my review of The Crush. Stay tuned, I got a lot more reviews coming your way. Also, and as always, if there's a movie you can think of that's underappreciated or overlooked by either mainstream audiences or critics for that matter, and you'd like to know what I think of it, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see what I can do about checking out a copy of that movie and putting a review up for you. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Priceless B movies.